Okay, this is the Exponent Rules Worksheet Odd Solutions. Alright, so exponent rules say if you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. If you divide like bases, you subtract the exponents. If you take a power to another power, you multiply the exponents. Anything to a 0 power is 1, and if you have a negative exponent, you drop it like it's hot. Okay, so I have one negative exponent right here, but first I'm just going to go ahead and combine my like bases. I've got x squared here, x to the negative first, and x squared here. So I can combine those. But I'm going to do negative 3 and 4 first. So negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. You can cross those out. We dealt with those. Now let's do with our x's. X squared, x to the negative 1, and x squared. So you add them together. So you have x to the 2 plus negative 1 plus 2. Cross those out. We're done with those. And then you have y. And there isn't anything else, so we can just leave it like that. So we have negative 12. 2 plus negative 1 is 1, plus 2 is 3. So it's x cubed y. And that's your answer. Alright, so same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and start with my constant, or with my coefficients. 3 times 3 is 9. Then I'm going to go to my x's. I only have one x to the 4th, so I can go ahead and write that. And now I have y to the 0 power plus to the first power. So you end up with 9x to the 4th, 0 plus 1 is 1. So it's y to the first power, but we don't write the first power. So you just leave it like that. Okay, let's go ahead and start with our coefficients. 2 times 4 is 8. Then let's go with our m's. We've got m to the negative 2. So we have m to the first power plus negative 2. Then we have n to the 4th and n squared. So you have n to the 4 plus 2. So 8 times m, 1 plus negative 2 is negative 1. And then 4 plus 2 is 6. Now because we have a negative exponent here, we need to drop it like it's hot. So this is going to go down here, leaving you 8n to the 6th over m to the first power, but we don't write that. When you drop it like it's hot, the negative exponent becomes a positive exponent. Alright, same thing. 4 times 2 is 8. And then we'll go ahead and do the u's. U squared, u to the negative 2. So that's u to the 2, oops, plus negative 2, gets rid of my u's, and then I just have a v. So 8u, 2 plus negative 2 is 0, v. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so this becomes 8 times 1 times v, which is just 8v. Alright, number 9. So we have a negative 1, a 4, and a 3, which gives us negative 12. So cross that out, cross that out, cross that out. Now let's deal with our x's. X cubed and x to the negative 1 power. So you have x cubed plus negative 1. That gets rid of our x's. And then we've got y to the 4th, and y to the 3rd. So you do 4 plus 3. So you have negative 12x. 3 plus negative 1 is 2, 4 plus 3 is 7, and your answer is negative 12x squared y to the 7th. Alright, here we're dealing with division, so we're going to go ahead and deal with some of our parentheses before we deal with the division. So if you take a power to a power, you multiply your exponents. So 0 times 5 is just 0, so that just becomes y to the 0 on the top. And then here, you're going to go ahead and give your exponent to both pieces. So it becomes x to the negative 5th power to the negative 1 power, y squared to the negative 1 power, and then we still have times negative x to the negative 5th. So we know y to the 0 is just 1, so we're going to go ahead and put that there. Then here, power to a power, so you multiply your exponents. Negative 5 times negative 1 is positive 5. Here, power to a power. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then it is times negative x to the negative 5th power. All right, let's deal with the fact that we have two like bases down here. We can go ahead and bring the negative out front. X, and we have the fifth power and the negative fifth power. So it's going to become 5 plus negative 5. That takes care of this and this. And then you have y to the negative 2 power. So it becomes 1 over negative 5 plus negative 5 is 0. Y to the negative 2. X to the 0 power is just 1. So this becomes negative 1 y to the negative 2 power. And if you have a negative exponent in the denominator, you bring it to the top. So the top becomes 1y squared, but we don't need to write the 1. And then we have a negative 1 in the denominator, which we can just go ahead and bring up to the numerator, making our answer negative y squared. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is break up this exponent and give it to every piece of the parentheses. So you need to give it to this piece, which is negative 1 to the 4th power, and then to this piece, which is m to the negative 4th power to the 4th power, and then this piece, which is n squared to the 4th power. We'll do the same thing over here. Every piece gets a squared. So you've got m to the 5th squared, n squared squared, and this is all over mn to the 4th. Okay, we'll do it one piece at a time. Negative 1 to the 4th power is positive 1 times, if you take a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. So it's m to the negative 16th, power to a power, n to the 8th, power to a power, m to the 10th, power to a power, n to the 4th, all over mn to the 4th. Okay, so let's combine here. We have m to the 16th and m to the 10th. So you have m to the negative 16th plus 10. That takes care of that and that. And then you've got your n's. So you have n to the 8 plus 4. And this is all over mn to the 4th. So this gives me m to the negative 6th, n to the 12th, all over mn to the 4th. Notice I didn't write the 1 again because you don't really need it. Too loud! Alright, so now we're going to split it up and we're actually going to divide our like bases. When you divide like bases, you subtract the exponents. So I have m to the negative 6 minus 1, and then n to the 12 minus 4, which gives me m to the negative 7th, n to the 8th. Because m is to the negative 7, we're going to drop it like it's hot, leaving the n to the 8th over m to the 7th. Okay, here I'm going to go ahead and try to deal with what's inside the parentheses before I deal with this squared. So I'm going to combine x to the 4th and x squared. So I have parentheses negative x to the 4th plus 2, because it's 4th and 2. And then we've got y to the 0 plus 4. Okay, this is all to the 2nd power still, over x, y to the 5th. So this becomes negative x to the 6th, y to the 4th, over x, y to the 5th. And this is all still squared. So now we're still dealing with the inside of the parentheses, but we're going to subtract the exponents because we're dividing. So we've got negative x. So we're going to do 6 minus 1. And then y, we're going to do 4 minus 5. And this is still all raised to the 2nd power. So I've got negative x to the 5th power, y to the negative 1 power, all raised to the 2nd power. So now you can go ahead and split them up and give this 2 to all of the pieces. So you have negative 1 squared times x to the 5th squared times y to the negative 1 squared. When you take a power to a power, remember you multiply. So negative 1 squared is just positive 1. Power to a power, you multiply them together, so you get x to the 10th. And power to a power, you have negative 1 times 2, which is negative 2. Because this is the negative power, we're going to drop it like it's hot. So we're left with x to the 10th over y squared. Okay, here, since it's just the numerator being raised to this power, we're going to give this power to every piece inside. So you're going to have negative 1 to the negative 5th power, x to the 0 to the negative 5th power, and y to the 4th to the negative 5th power. All over. Actually, you can go ahead and start combining terms in your denominator. So we have an x squared and a negative x squared, so I'll put my negative out front, and then you have x to the 2 plus 2, because they're both squared, and then you've got y to the 1 plus negative 4. Okay, so negative 1 to the 5th power is negative 1. If you take a power to a power, you multiply, so this is x to the 0, because 0 times negative 5 is 0. And if you take a power to a power, you multiply, so you get y to the negative 20th. All over negative x to the 4th power, because 2 plus 2 is 4. And y to the negative 3rd power, because 1 plus negative 4 is negative 3. All right, I've got a negative over a negative, so I can go ahead and change that to positive. So now we're going to deal with like bases and subtracting exponents because we're dividing. So I have x to the 0 minus 4, y to the negative 20 minus negative 3. So here you're going to add a line, change the sign. So you have x to the negative 4 power, y to the negative 17 power. They're both negative exponents, so we're going to drop them both like they're hot, leaving me 1 over x to the 4th, y to the 17th. Okay, here you're going to give the 4 to every piece inside here and the 4 to every piece inside here. So it becomes m to the negative 2 power to the 4th power times n cubed to the 4th power over m to the 5th power to the 4th power, negative 1 to the 4th power, because don't forget about this negative being raised to the 4th power here, and then n to the negative 3 to the 4th power. When you take a power to a power, you multiply your exponents. So I have m to the negative 8, because negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, n to the 12th, because 3 times 4 is 12, over m to the 20th, because 5 times 4 is 20, negative 1 to the 4th power is just 1, so we don't need to write anything, because anything times 1 is just itself. But just in case, we'll put a 1 there just so you don't get confused. And then negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, so you have n to the negative 12. Now we're going to deal with our exponents, our like terms being divided, so you subtract the exponents. So I have m to the negative 8 minus 20, and then n to the 12 minus negative 12. Which gives us m to the negative 28, n, add a line, change the sign, to the 24th. So m needs to be dropped like it's hot, leaving you n to the 24th over m to the 28th.